It's hard to believe some of these toys ever made it past the drawing board. They're not just poorly designed, they're outright dangerous. Whether it's toxic chemicals, explosive parts, or sheer bad judgment, these toys turn playtime into a risk. I'm Mike with List 25, and let's take a look at 25 shockingly dangerous toys that should have come with a warning label, or maybe a do not buy sign. 25. Easy Bake Oven, 2007 model. Kids love many things, and pretend cooking is one of their favorites. So when the Easy Bake Oven was released in 1963, it was the perfect toy for many children. Until it wasn't. The idea was simple. Create a toy that kids could use to cook, but substitute a light bulb for fire. So most standard light bulbs at home are just 60 watts, but this one needed to heat food, so it was made 100 watts. Great idea, right? But curiosity drove kids to get their hands trapped and fingers stuck in the door. The heat from the bulb caused burns in several children. Soon, over 240 injuries were reported, and it became a major concern. The 2007 model had to be taken out of circulation and replaced with a version where the internal chamber can't easily be accessed by kids. Sadly, a poor 5-year-old had their finger partially amputated due to a severe burn caused by that design flaw. 24. Guns for kids? The 40s were a fascinating time, and kids weren't missing out on the fun. There was this interesting toy called the Austin Magic Pistol, designed to shoot ping pong balls. That doesn't sound bad, right? But when you pulled the trigger, it released actual fire. Inside the gun was an explosive substance called calcium carbide. To make it work, you'd pop a magic calcium carbide crystal in, add some water, or even spit, and bam! You get a flammable gas that sent ping pong balls flying. Needless to say, kids got hurt by this toy. Although the company claimed it was harmless. Even worse, some of the guns exploded. I really wonder who came up with the idea to put guns in kids' hands. 23. Clacker might crack your skull. If you ever wanted to create the perfect handy toy, you'd probably design one that's quick to set up and usable everywhere. The Clacker was just that. In the 60s and 70s, kids liked it, and parents did too. I mean, look at this guy. So it consisted of 2 balls and a string, which children would whip around and bang together to make loud clacking sounds. Simple, but fun. But if you know anything about banging fairly heavy objects together at high speed, you know that at some point they will sometimes crash, shatter, and leave dangerous pieces everywhere. And that's exactly what happened. Soon there were reports of kids getting seriously injured while playing. After several lawsuits, clackers were pulled from the market in the US and Canada. Definitely better than kids returning with broken heads. 22. Dancer Got Abusive. After Barbie dolls were introduced to the market by Ruth Handler in 1959, girls' dolls took off. Just like that, dolls started showing up in every style imaginable, catering to every girl's dream. Among those that made waves was one called the Sky Dancer that could fly. Once it was launched in 1994, girls loved it. It would spin so fast that when it was released, it would just shoot into the air. I mean, just look at it. Adorable, right? Well, not when the dolls started getting abusive. Although the wings were made of foam, they started to hit kids so badly that parents started to complain. After 100 injuries were reported, ranging from broken teeth to temporary blindness and even broken ribs, 9 million Sky Dancers were recalled in June 2000. 21. Children's wood-burning kits. That name alone is enough to make you pause. Giving kids a tool designed to burn things is, without a doubt, a risky idea. Well, here's how it works. These wood-burning kits used a heated tool called a pyrography pen. The pen's metal tip becomes scorching hot when plugged in, allowing kids to draw designs or write on wood by charring its surface. As the tip moves across the wood, it burns the material, leaving darkened lines or patterns. Back in the 50s, these kits were especially popular among scouts. Kids expected to handle fire and minor injuries with maturity. Spoiler alert, they often didn't. After all, they were still kids. But while modern versions by companies like NSI and TS Shore have added safety features and detailed instructions, let's face it, if something can burn wood, it can burn other things too. Furniture, for example. Or worse, the child's fingers. These kits might spark creativity, but guess what else they can spark? Fire. Maybe some hobbies are better left for adults. 20. Creepy crawlers. Every kid wants to have toys. That's one of the best pleasures of childhood. But making their own toys all by themselves is every kid's unexpressed dream. In 1964, kids had to confront that dream. The Creepy Crawlers was a pint-sized box that came with liquid plastics, allowing kids to pour them into molds of different shapes, making their toys themselves. But this setup had several problems, from getting extremely hot to exposing children to toxic fumes and causing injuries. Although Creepy Crawlers was so popular that it even had its own cartoon series, it was eventually pulled from the shelves. Sure, the safety of kids comes before the fun they desire. That's actually a really cool quote, jot it down. 19. Flubber came alive, and a bit too pissed. Inspired by the absent-minded professor, Hasbro, the well-known toy brand, decided to create a real Flubber toy in 1963. But it didn't actually come to life. It was made from synthetic rubber, mineral oil, and green dye. The end result? A super fun, squishy toy that can bounce, stretch, and leave cool imprints. People loved it, and it sold millions. But then there was a plot twist. Kids who played with it reported skin irritation, sore throats, and whole body rashes. One poll found that 35% of kids developed a rash, leading to lawsuits, and Hasbro pulling the toy that May. 18. The Scary Little Dolls from Hell. Obviously, no one wants the creepy Chucky doll hanging around their house, especially after watching the movie. Back in 1993, there was a ton of buzz around some Chucky-like dolls, but with nice hair. These ugly dolls somehow gained international attention, and in 1996, the Snack Time Cabbage Patch Kid was released. It sounds strange, but the doll was designed to eat plastic food that you gave it, magically moving the remains to a backpack on its back. I mean, who wouldn't want to stick something in and watch it crunch? But kids didn't just put plastic in, they also put their fingers. This resulted in 35 incidents where children's hair and fingers got caught in its mouth. By 1997, Mattel requested that the approximately 500,000 units in circulation be retrieved. And with that came the end of the ugly dolls. 17. Hoverboards. Back in 2015, hoverboards were such a big deal. It was easy to see a teen in a Batman suit riding a brand new hoverboard. Now, while these looked really cool, they had some serious problems. Soon, many people started complaining about the injuries they caused. Many kids used them while fiddling with their phones, which resulted in some really bad falls. Think sprained wrists and broken bones. But what was even more shocking was that some exploded on their own. Why? Well, due to the insane demand at the time, Chinese factories were churning out a lot of them with very poor quality control. As a result, the lithium-ion batteries in the devices would often explode. This even burnt down a house. As a result, hundreds of thousands were recalled and the hoverboard craze quickly faded away. Also, terrible name for it, as it didn't hover, it was on wheels, so... Always hated that name for those. Wheelie boards, go with that. They didn't hover, I'm sorry. I mean, not that I expected them to, but... Terrible name. 16. Buckyballs Saga. There's probably no other desk toy as fun as Buckyballs. Basically, they're these tiny little ball-shaped magnets that allow you to twist them into any shape or design. It's really fun for kids. And while they're a blast to play with, they don't make for a good snack. Sadly, kids are not so close-minded as to say, I won't swallow my shape-shifting friend. But that's the problem. These magnets are so powerful that they can stick together inside a child's stomach or intestines, causing intense pain and vomiting blood. Sometimes they can only be taken out through surgery that requires removing parts of the intestine. As a result, Buckyballs were banned in the US in 2013, but allowed back in 2016 after a tough legal battle. So if this is new to you, check to see if your kid has any of these around. 15. Mini Hammocks. If you've used hammocks, you'll agree that they're one of the best outdoor sleeping products out there. But those mini versions? They can be much scarier than they look. Regular hammocks have spreader bars, those wooden or plastic bars on either end that keep them from collapsing. However, the kid-friendly versions that popped up in the 80s and 90s didn't, which meant they could easily twist around a child. Although they were marketed to mimic sleep in the womb and help newborns with sleeping difficulties, they turned out to be a nightmare. After 12 kids were strangled by these hammocks, over 3 million were recalled in 1996. A CPSC report says hammocks in general injure or kill around 3,000 people in North America each year. That is wild. 14. Lawn darts. If you ever find this once popular toy in your grandparents' garage, the government wants you to destroy it immediately. Why? Well, something crazy happened in 1987. This massive 12-inch metal-tipped lawn dart, also known as a javelin dart, or Jarts, struck 7-year-old Michelle Snow in the head. The impact pierced her skull, eventually leading to her death. Sadly, Michelle wasn't the only victim. 2 other children also lost their lives in similar accidents. But it gets even worse. What was meant to be a simple game where players earned points by landing darts inside a target turned into a nightmare. Between January 1978 and December 1986, lawn darts were responsible for an estimated 6,100 hospital ER-treated injuries. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, approximately 81% of the victims were children, and injuries ranged from punctures and lacerations to fractures to the head and skull. But this raises the real question. How was such a dangerous item ever disguised as a toy? Since the 70s, lawn darts have been banned from toy stores to keep them out of children's reach. 13. Yo-yo balls. You wouldn't think yo-yo balls could cause trouble, but they seem to be surprisingly dangerous. It's hard to imagine that just a yo-yo and a ball have actually sent a whole lot of people to the hospital. Every part of this popular toy is a threat, from the cord nearly strangling kids to the balls striking them in the head. In fact, the CPSC received 186 reports of incidents involving the toy's cord. Guess what? Experts scrutinized even the liquid inside for its potential toxicity and flammability. While thankfully there were no fatalities, there were far too many close calls. This led to a recall, though by that time millions had already been sold across the country. 12. Polly Pocket. Polly Pocket dolls made a huge splash in 1989, despite being less than an inch tall. Imagine a tiny apartment folded into a makeup compact, ready to fit in your pocket. Pure magic for 90s kids. Add in the boy version, Mighty Max, and these pint-sized playsets had everyone hooked. I had many Mighty Max myself. But these toys weren't meant to be eaten, and kids, as we know, make their own rules. Fortunately, the dolls were too large to swallow. However, the magnets in the accessories often fell off, and if multiple magnets were swallowed, they could cause serious injury, even life-threatening damage to kids' digestive systems. A lot of reports of these incidents were made, which led to a major recall in 2006. 11. Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab. And this is one of the wildest toys on the list so far. The Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab. Released in 1950 by the A.C. Gilbert Company, this infamous kit was marketed as an educational toy to teach kids about atomic energy and radiation. Sounds cool, right? Well, not so fast. This set came packed with actual radioactive materials, including uranium-238, thorium-232, and even radium-226. I mean, kids were unknowingly playing around with tiny samples of the same chemical substances that resulted in the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster. It didn't take long before parents found out, and as you might expect, they freaked out. Fun fact, each unit of this kit was sold at $50 each, which is actually $650 today. The kit was later pulled from the shelves in 1951 thanks to the growing awareness of the effects of radiation. 10. Firebending Barbie. Since its debut in 1959, Barbie has been the queen of fashion dolls, with countless variations. Generally, Barbie dolls are pretty safe, but in the 90s, a more daring version was released into the market, Rollerblade Barbie. She was unique with her bright yellow rollerblades, which had a wheel mechanism similar to those in cigarette lighters. When you rolled her, her boots would shoot out sparks. I mean, like actual fire. It was only a matter of time before the reports of the fires started coming in. One parent even said their daughter accidentally set her brother's clothes on fire while playing. It wasn't long before Rollerblade Barbie was yanked from shelves, and now lots of homes are safe from fires. 9. Laser pointers. Chances are you've probably seen a video of a cat owner using a laser pointer to play with their cats. Although it's adorable to watch, it can get pretty dangerous if you buy the wrong pointer. In most countries, you can only legally sell laser pointers with a power output of 5 milliwatts or less, which are generally safe. But those sold by illegal street vendors might exceed 10 milliwatts and can be powered by simple AA batteries. Well, it may seem like a cheap, harmless toy for pranks or animals, but laser pointers can damage a person's cornea if shown in their eyes. There have been serious injuries reported, including partial blindness. So regardless of the law around these lasers in your country, please take care of your eyes and those of your kids. 8. CSI Fingerprint Examination Kit. Many kids love to play detective, and that's exactly what the CSI Fingerprint Examination Kit made them. This popular toy was inspired by a popular CBS show called, well, CSI, Crime Scene Investigation. The toy kit included a special powder and brushes that allowed kids to first sprinkle the powder on a surface and then gently brush it away to uncover hidden fingerprints, just like detectives do on TV. But it didn't take so long before everything took an ugly turn. In November 2007, a shocking discovery was made. The powder contained up to 7% asbestos, a highly toxic substance linked to serious health risks. Inhalation of asbestos fibers can lead to a chronic respiratory disease called asbestosis, and even mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive form of cancer that affects the lining of the lungs and abdomen. Instead of uncovering mysteries, children were unknowingly exposing themselves to this toxic powder. 7. Aqua Dots. Can you remember a time when your brilliant idea was ruined by one bad decision? Well, that's what happened with this bad guy. In 2007, Aqua Dots, also known as Bindies, were one of the hottest toys. In fact, they were awarded Australian Toy of the Year for 2007. Kids loved them for their magical bead-to-pattern concept. It was a really cool concept. All you had to do was arrange these tiny beads into a pattern on a grid, and then with just a spray of water, they magically stick together. Except it wasn't really magic. It was a chemical reaction. And here's where things went wrong. Bindies became the center of a major safety scandal. A manufacturing factory in Shenzhen, China had used the wrong chemical in some of the toys. Instead of the safe material chosen by the designers, they used a cheaper chemical that acted as a sedative. So when some kids swallowed the beads, they got very sick and were hospitalized. This led to a big product recall across many countries, several lawsuits, and eventually a huge profit loss. Since then, safer versions have been made to prevent anything like this from happening again. 6. Inflatable baby floats. Parents who sought safe and fun ways to introduce their baby to water saw the inflatable baby floats as their best bet. These neck floats were known to turn bath time or pool sessions into memorable experiences. But beneath their pretty design lies a troubling reality. Parents trust these devices to keep their little ones secure, yet numerous incidents highlight their potential danger. In 2009, over 4 million Aqua Leisure baby floats were recalled after seat straps tore, causing babies to fall into the water. Similarly, Ottawa floats faced recalls in 2015 due to deflation issues. Neck floats in particular have raised alarms, with reports of babies slipping through and sometimes drowning. The US FDA and Consumer Product Safety Commission warn parents against inflatables, particularly for infants with developmental delays or special needs, as they could lead to serious injury or death. 5. Science Whiz Bottle Rocket Party. Are you ready to turn your backyard into a launch site? The Science Whiz Bottle Rocket Party promises explosive fun, launching bottle rockets using pressurized air or water. It's a simple setup. Just add baking soda, vinegar, or water to the rocket and watch it soar. But here's where things go sideways. This toy omits key safety gear, like safety goggles. And even though the packaging recommends them, kids are so eager to launch the rockets that they overlook the option to buy the safety gear altogether. Now, this is extremely dangerous, as the projectiles flying through the air are a serious hazard. What's worse, without close supervision, the rockets can explode or strike with dangerous force, sometimes even in the wrong direction, leading to eye and facial injuries. 4. Moon Shoes. In the 90s, kids couldn't get enough of moon shoes, a toy designed to give them the feeling of bouncing around on the moon. The shoes featured platform-like soles with springs or elastic bands, which made every jump feel like zero-gravity fun. But as fun as they seemed, they came with a serious safety risk. The high platforms and lack of ankle support made it really tough for kids to keep their balance. Instead of fun jumps, they often ended up with awkward landings, leading to bumps, bruises, or more. Though not as famous for being dangerous as the other toys, there were plenty of reports of sprained ankles, cuts, bruises, and broken bones caused by falls in these bouncy shoes. 3. Kite Tubes. Kite tubes seem like the ultimate thrill, soaring above the water like a kite, with nothing but adrenaline and a rope holding you to the boat. At first, they were all fun and games, designed to lift riders into the air as the boat zipped across the water. But the fun quickly turned dangerous. Riders didn't just get a lift, they got sent flying into danger. Falls from terrifying heights led to broken bones, spinal injuries, and even brain trauma. After too many accidents, the CPSC had no choice but to recall the Kite Tubes in 2006. The once famous thrill toy quickly turned into a scary memory. 2. Slap Bracelets. Next up is one of the most iconic toys ever made. You couldn't escape it, it was everywhere. This was just the perfect accessory for kids. With a simple flick of the wrist, It would snap into place, wrapping around your arm like magic. It was sleek, it was fun, and boy was it dangerous. The slap bracelet was made from a thin metal strip hidden under a fabric cover, or in my case, rubber. But what made them thrilling also made them scary. In many cases, the metal strips weren't properly covered with fabric or plastic, exposing the sharp metal edges and leaving behind cuts and bruises on kids. With serious injuries reported, slap braces were eventually banned, and parents didn't hesitate to get rid of them. 1. Belt Buckle Derringer Toy Gun. In the early 50s, the developers at Mattel must have had a very different sense of safety, or perhaps none at all. One of their more questionable creations was the belt buckle Derringer, which quickly gained popularity among boys. Worn as a belt buckle, the toy gun fired both a cap and a toy bullet when the wearer pushed out his stomach. At first, it seemed harmless, but this toy gun had a design flaw. The caps ignited from friction, causing painful and serious burns. And that wasn't the only problem. These toys were often misused, causing injuries from flying projectiles, or even worse, situations where children threatened people with their shockingly realistic weapons. By today's standards, the idea of these toys on the market feels downright reckless. Well, you made it to the end. But don't worry, that was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to jaw-dropping discoveries. If you're craving more mind-blowing facts, be sure to check out our facts on 25 most shocking and unbelievable facts of all time. Do you want to know what names you can't call your teddy bear in Sudan? Or are you curious about what it's like to have the biggest family in the world? If so, this video is just what you need. Trust me, you don't want to miss it, so click on the link right here to watch now. And also, don't forget, comment below. Let me know what toys you had that were banned. And I'll catch you next time.